what if I told you that the quickest way to get more people to actually see your posts is to, well, to actively delete thousands of your own followers?
I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive, doesn't it? It goes against pretty much everything we've ever been taught about social media clout.
Right. We're like so conditioned to think that the follower count is the ultimate scoreboard.
Exactly. But it's actually not.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a brilliantly analytical guide from the Circleboom blog written by Altug. And it's all about the hidden reasons why your Twitter or X engagement might be tanking and exactly how to fix it.
Yeah. It's a really eye-opening piece of writing.
It really is. And our mission today for you, the listener, is to completely decode the invisible rules of the algorithm. We're going to figure out how to take your account from feeling like, a digital ghost town and transform it into a thriving, high engagement hub.
And, what makes this particular source material so critical is that it reframes social media growth entirely. Like it shifts the focus away from this exhausting cycle of creative guesswork.
Right, where you just throw content at the wall and pray something sticks.
Exactly. Instead, it reveals that low engagement isn't a mystery. It's not bad luck. It follows entirely predictable structural patterns. And because they are structural patterns, they require a systematic structural fix.
I want to start right there with that underlying structure, because before we can even talk about, fixing your content or writing better posts, we have to talk about the math that is secretly penalizing your account right now.
Right, the math is everything here.
And it all hinges on one very specific metric, right? The engagement rate.
Yes. We really need a baseline to understand the algorithm's perspective. So engagement rate is simply your total engagements. So that's your likes, your replies, your retweets, your bookmarks, divided by your total impressions. And then you multiply that by 100 to get a percentage.
Okay, and just to be super clear, an impression is just anytime your tweet appears on someone's screen, right? Like whether they interact with it or just scroll right past it.
Precisely. Just showing up on the screen counts as an impression.
So what should that percentage actually be? Because I think a lot of us look at our analytics and have absolutely no idea what good even looks like.
Yeah, the source provides some highly grounding benchmarks from Sprout Social for this. The average engagement rate across most sectors is actually between 0.5% and 1%.
Wait, less than 1%, that's the average.
I know it sounds tiny, but yes. Now, if you're in a highly active focused niche, you might hit 2% to 5%.
Oh, wow, okay.
But here is the critical threshold. If you're consistently falling below 0.3%, you don't just have a run of bad luck. You have a structural flaw in your account that the algorithm is actively punishing.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this brings us back to that wild idea of deleting your own followers. The guide points out that one of the most massive structural flaws, reason one in the article, is having an audience filled with bots or inactive accounts.
Yeah, it's the most common hidden cause of low metrics.
Right.
And to understand why, you just have to look at the math we just discussed.
Right.
Every single bot account, or every single person who followed you 5 years ago and hasn't logged in since, is acting as a non-engaging impression source.
It's like, okay, imagine you're throwing a massive party in a giant stadium, right? And the stadium is filled to the brim with mannequins.
Okay, I like this.
So the room looks totally full on paper, but nobody is dancing, nobody is talking, nobody is ordering drinks. So the DJ, who in this case is the algorithm, looks out at this lifeless crowd and thinks, wow, the music must be terrible, and just stops playing the good tracks.
That is a perfect visualization of the mechanism at play. The algorithm sees that it showed your post to 1,000 of your followers. But because those followers are mannequins...
They don't interact.
Exactly. They don't interact. So the algorithm concludes the content is low quality, and it just stops distributing it to the real people who might actually want to see it. It bloats your impressions and immediately sinks your engagement ratio.
And the source points out that these mannequins accumulate over time. Maybe you did some follow-for-follow schemes years ago, or you just naturally picked up spam accounts. So the fix here is brutal, but necessary, right?
It is. You have to scan your followers and literally delete the bots.
You have to kick the mannequins out of the stadium.
Yes. But what's fascinating here is that it's not just the people following you that the algorithm judges. It's your own digital footprint, too.
Oh, this is reason 3 from the guide, right? Old tweets?
Exactly. The algorithm has a memory, and it's looking at your past failures to predict your future ones. This means your old, low-performing tweets are actively dragging down your current averages.
I have to admit, it feels so uncomfortable to systematically go back and delete old content. Like, we're so conditioned to treat our timelines like a digital diary or this pristine archive of every thought we've ever had.
It's a huge emotional barrier for a lot of
Sure.
creators. But you have to remember that every tweet you've ever posted that got 0 likes or 0 retweets is still sitting on your profile, acting as historical deadweight.
Wait.
And the longer you've been on the platform without clearing out that weak content, the more that deadweight accumulates.
So you're basically communicating to the algorithm that your account represents, like a sprawling wasteland of ignored thoughts rather than dense, concentrated quality.
Right. So the core philosophy of the article is striking. A smaller, genuinely engaged audience and a tightly curated timeline is infinitely more valuable to the algorithm than a large inflated one.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so let's say we've done the purge. The bots are gone, the old ignored tweets have been deleted, the stadium is much smaller, but everyone inside is actually alive and ready to dance. How do we get them moving?
Well, that requires surviving a rather brutal countdown clock. This shifts our focus from what you post to exactly when and how quickly it receives validation.
Oh, the terrifying active lifespan of a tweet. I couldn't believe this part. According to the source, the average tweet is active for exactly 18 to 24 minutes.
Yeah, it's an incredibly narrow window, and the algorithm makes its primary distribution decisions based heavily on what happens in just the first 5 to 15 minutes after you hit post.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it's like striking a match in a windstorm.
Yeah.
You have exactly 5 minutes to cup your hands around it, or it just goes out forever.
That's a great way to look at it. If a tweet sits quiet in that first 5 to 15-minute window, the algorithm actively suppresses it. It assumes it's a dud.
Which is reason 6 in the guide. No early engagement seeds. But wait, how do you guarantee that early validation? Because, you can't just cross your fingers and hope your most active followers happen to be looking at their phones the exact second you hit send.
Right, you can't rely on luck. You have to manufacture that organic momentum. The source recommends cultivating a reliable early engagement seed group.
And what does that actually look like in practice?
It means actively nurturing relationships with a core group of followers. You reply to their work, you engage with them regularly, so that when you post, they are naturally inclined to be your test audience and give that initial burst of validation.
The article even suggests running strategic giveaways to build this, right? Where the entry requirement is that they have to retweet and reply to a specific post.
Yes. And the underlying logic there isn't just about gaining new followers for the sake of vanity. It's a structural mechanism to generate a massive burst of early signals.
Oh, so it essentially trains your audience and the algorithm that when you post, activity happens immediately.
Exactly. You're teaching the system that your content demands attention.
I see. But even with a great seed group, none of this matters if you're executing it at the wrong time of day, which is reason 2. I used to just post whenever a random thought popped into my head, like a brilliant insight tweeted at 3 a.m. is fundamentally doomed just because of the clock.
Completely doomed. Posting randomly is a guarantee of failure when you're fighting a 15-minute clock. The guide cites research from Buffer showing that if you align your post to your audience's active hours, you see 2 to 3 times higher engagement on the exact same piece of content.
2 to 3 times, just from changing the time.
Yes. But it's important to emphasize that this isn't about Googling best time to post on social media and getting some generic answer like Tuesday at noon.
Right, generic advice will ruin your metrics.
Exactly. It's about analyzing the past activity of your unique followers to find the exact windows when the highest concentration of them are online, ready to validate your content the moment it drops.
Okay, so I'm doing the math on all this. I've purged the bots, I'm carefully guarding my 15-minute window, I'm timing my post perfectly to my audience's unique schedule. But honestly, that sounds completely exhausting. Am I supposed to just constantly invent brilliant, viral-worthy thoughts every single day at 2:00 p.m. just to feed this machine?
That is the exact trap most creators fall into. If you stop at simply timing your posts, you will find yourself trapped on an exhausting content treadmill.
So how do we avoid that?
To sustain momentum, you must shift your mindset from constantly creating to aggressively recycling. You have to wring every possible drop of value from the content you already know works.
Which is such a relief, frankly. Let's talk about how the guide addresses this, because reason 4 points out that one of the biggest mistakes people make is letting their best content die after just one posting cycle.
Yeah, this is particularly tragic for evergreen content. We're talking about deep dive tutorials, resource lists, insightful industry tips, things that are just as true and valuable today as they will be 6 months from now.
Right.
But because of the chronological, fast-paced nature of the feed, they get treated like ephemeral daily chatter. They just disappear into the archive.
So what does this all mean? It means we treat our best evergreen insights like a one-night-only performance in a tiny local club when we really should be treating them like a massive hit theater production that goes on a national tour. Yes. The guide's fix here is to auto-retweet your own best content at set intervals. Let the show go on tour.
It is an incredibly compounding strategy. Every time you recycle that successful tweet, it gets a fresh 15-minute window to generate engagement from a totally different segment of your audience.
Oh, like maybe people in a different time zone who were asleep during the original broadcast.
Exactly. But I know what you're probably thinking.
Well, I do have to play devil's advocate here for a second. We just spent a good chunk of time talking about how the algorithm hates bots and artificial behavior. Doesn't setting up automated retweets risk making me look exactly like the robotic spam we are trying to avoid?
That is a very valid concern, but there's a huge distinction between spamming and strategic programming. You aren't auto-retweeting every thought you've ever had. You are selectively rebroadcasting proven high-value assets.
Ah, okay.
You're providing a service to the segment of your audience that missed it. And this ties directly into the next major hurdle, reason 7. Most people are not learning from their own high-performing data.
Right. The article practically begs us to stop relying on our gut intuition.
Intuition is unpredictable. The fix is to systematically analyze your top-performing tweets from the last 90 days. But you don't just look at the topics. You look at the underlying architecture of the post.
What does that mean in practice? Extracting the architecture.
It means asking structural questions. Was the successful post a bulleted list? What was the tone? Was it contrarian or was it supportive?
Oh, I see.
How long were the sentences? Did it include a custom graphic or recognizable meme? Did you ask a question at the end? You extract that specific structural formula, and then you write entirely new content using that exact same blueprint.
Systematic analysis of your own data will always outperform constant creative guesswork. That makes total sense.
Exactly.
And once you have that blueprint, there's another growth barrier. The source highlights reason 5. Your audience might be completely isolated to one platform, because relying purely on cold organic growth within just X alone is incredibly slow these days.
Yes, because you are artificially limiting your funnel.
Wait, you mentioned limiting the funnel. For those who aren't deep into marketing jargon, how are we defining the funnel here?
Think of your funnel as the total wide net of people who could potentially be exposed to your ideas, eventually narrowing down to the people who actively follow and engage with you on your main platform.
Okay, got it.
There are countless high-quality potential followers out there who would love your specific niche, but they just happen to spend their mornings on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or Bluesky or Threads rather than X.
So the move is cross-posting. You take that hit theater production, and you don't just tour it to different time zones on one platform. You take it to Broadway, you take it to the West End, you take it everywhere.
Exactly. When you distribute that top-tier, proven content to other platforms, you create multiple entry points into your funnel. Let's say someone discovers your insight on LinkedIn, they find it valuable, so they click through and follow you back on X.
And the critical psychological advantage here is that they arrive already predisposed to like your content.
Precisely. They aren't just cold, skeptical traffic. They are warm leads. They raise your baseline engagement rate permanently because they already trust your voice and are far more likely to be part of that critical 15-minute test audience we talked about.
Okay, I am looking at the sheer scale of these fixes. We were talking about auditing followers to delete bots, going back and deleting potentially thousands of old, underperforming tweets, setting up schedules for auto-retweets, analyzing 90 days of architectural metrics to find peak posting windows, and actively cross-posting to 5 different networks.
That's a lot.
It's insane. Doing all of this manually sounds like a full-time job.
It is practically impossible to do manually while still having time to actually write good content, which is why the source transitions into a very specific operational framework. It points to a single centralized engine to execute this entire strategy.
Right. The author of our guide, Altug, actually writes for the Circleboom blog, which is a software tool built specifically for this kind of algorithmic maintenance. Obviously, they have a horse in this race since they are recommending their own platform. But the framework they suggest is genuinely fascinating because it relies entirely on official developer channels. They emphasize that Circleboom is an official X enterprise developer, fully API compliant.
And that compliance aspect is absolutely non-negotiable.
Wait, you mentioned API compliant. For those of us who aren't software engineers, what does that actually mean in practice, and why should the listener care?
An API, or Application Programming Interface, is basically the official, approved language that a social media platform uses to talk to outside tools. When a tool is API compliant, it means it is operating exactly within the rules set by the platform.
Okay, so it's playing by the rules.
Right. If you use unauthorized, hacky third-party tools to automate your actions, the algorithm will flag you as spam and suspend your account, which obviously drops your engagement rate to 0 permanently. Operating within the official API framework ensures your strategy is legitimate and sustainable.
And they're trusted by massive organizations like NBC News, the BBC, the American Red Cross. So we know it's not some shady workaround.
Exactly.
What I really appreciate about this guide is it doesn't just say, here's a tool, figure out. It gives us a strict 7-day sequence for the absolute fastest impact. It takes this looming abstract fear of the algorithm and turns it into a highly specific, manageable calendar.
Yeah, the sequence is highly deliberate.
Let's walk through this week-long boot camp and unpack exactly why it's structured this way.
Okay, so day 1 and 2 is entirely about subtraction. You run their fake follower checker to audit and delete the bots and inactive accounts. As we discussed, dropping those non-engaging impressions fixes your mathematical ratio almost instantly.
Right, so kicking the mannequins out of the stadium first.
Yes. Then, day 2 to 3, you continue the purge. You use the delete all tweets feature to sweep away your low-engagement historical posts, removing that algorithmic drag.
Got it.
And you absolutely must do this subtraction phase first, because moving into day 3 and 4, we shift from subtraction to automation. You set up the auto-retweeter for your top evergreen tweets, putting your best hits on that recurring tour schedule.
Oh, which totally explains the sequence. If you started by automating your best retweets on day 1, you'd just be serving your best content to a stadium full of mannequins. You have to clean the room before you put on the show.
Exactly. The logic is sequential. Then, day 4 to 5 is the data deep dive. You pull your Twitter analytics to find those highly specific peak active windows for your real human audience, and you realign your entire posting schedule to match.
Okay. And finally, day 5 to 7 is about aggressive expansion.
Right. You launch giveaway to train your early engagement seeds. You start publishing the rewritten versions of your top tweets based on your architectural analysis, and you activate cross-posting to bring in warm traffic from other platforms.
It's a complete overhaul in a week.
Yes, and the article's FAQ addresses the timeline of these results beautifully. It's really a story of compounding returns. The subtraction phases, removing bots and deleting old tweets, yield visible results in your metrics within 24 to 48 hours.
Because the dead weight is instantly gone.
Right? Your ratio improves almost instantly because the denominator of the equation, the empty impressions, is gone.
But the addition phases, like the peak timing alignment and the evergreen content recycling, those are the long game.
Correct. Those benefits compound over 1 to 2 weeks, and they just continue to grow. The longer the system runs, the more momentum it gathers. You're transitioning from a reactive user who is at the mercy of the feed to a proactive architect of your own distribution.
So bringing this all together for you, the listener, whether you are actively trying to build a personal brand, maybe you're prepping social media strategies for a marketing meeting on Monday, or you're just intensely curious about why your own digital timeline looks the way it does, the main takeaway here is incredibly empowering.
It truly is. It demystifies the entire process.
Engagement is not luck. It is not magic. It is structural math. You have to be willing to drop the dead weight, even if it hurts your vanity metrics or your digital diary. You absolutely must respect the 15-minute countdown clock of the algorithm. And you have to stop reinventing the wheel every morning and learn to systematically recycle your hits.
Applying this structural knowledge is what truly separates a casual scroller from a master of the medium who dictates their own reach and influence.
It's about playing the game with the instruction manual wide open. But as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over, something that builds on all the structural math we just explored.
Go for it.
If the algorithm is ruthlessly, almost entirely dictated by that initial 15-minute window of test audience engagement, how much of our global digital discourse, the things we all talk about, the things we argue about, the news we care about, is actually determined by the profound quality of a thought versus merely the time zone and lightning-fast reflexes of a creator's most active followers?
That's a slightly terrifying question.
Right. Are the genuinely best ideas winning the day, or just the ones with the best timing? Think about that the next time you see a post go viral. Thanks for joining us.